had their fastest lap after that last restart. So they've made the right adjustments right now, and they got themselves in pretty good position. I think they're going to make one more pit stop. So it'll be interesting to see what these teams can do. We've been talking about the 31 car and how great a good pit stops they've been having. So it could kind of play into the factor they could get closer to the front. And these pit crews are going to have to make sure they don't make any mistakes on that final pit stop.
Blaney in the 07 and in the 31 Jeff Burton Childress cars. Roush Racing recently had one of their engine specialists hired away by Richard Childress.
Yeah, one of their aerodynamic engineers, Nick Leela. And, you know, you wonder if whether or not he's already had an impact over there or not. So, but it's good to see Richard Childress Racing back up here battling in the top 10.
All right, let's get more on Jeff Burton with Dick Berger. Dick?
Well, he was a lot better right after that round of pit stops. But right now, Burton is suffering from a car that is way too loose. He is asked to tighten that automobile up a lot on the next round of pit stops.
Yeah, you can see he's got his hands full right there. He's really cranking that thing. I noticed we've been in the car with him a time or two, and he really puts a lot of effort into the steering. He really cranks that thing to the left. Watch him right here. I mean, he goes all the way down his left. He's using his, see how he's got his left or his right arm laying on the steering wheel? That's for support. Whoa, baby. She juked on him there. Jumped out from under him a little bit.
I think Joe Nemechek might have loosened him up a little there, Darrell.
I believe he did. He's talking about being loose. That made him real loose.
Yeah, he's lost about 4 positions in the last 3 laps. But, guys, we're to that final 100 miles. DW talked about it in the pre-race, early in the race. This is when those engine guys, they get a little bit nervous. These RPMs, they've been going on now for over 3.5 hours. A lot of RPMs late in the race now.
The cooler temperatures help a little bit as far as wear and tear on the engine, but still 500 miles on this racetrack where you're in the throttle all the time.
Biffle and Johnson have dominated this race. Greg has led 133 laps, Jimmy 117. But don't count out the young fellow in third. Casey Kane is 6 seconds back, and last year he finished third here in this race and 5th in the fall race. Matt's with his crew chief.
Second best racetrack for Casey Kane on going back to a racetrack for a second time. Now, Tommy, you've got that car back in contention. What's Casey saying about it now?
I was still a little off. We got to keep adjusting on it, but Dodge Charge is running pretty good. Best it's run all year. We just got to keep working on it.
The big thing is confidence. The car's still a little tight on entry, but Casey said it really turns well from the center off.
And I would have to say what else probably helped Tommy Ball and Casey Kane, this 9 team, is whenever you go to a track and Goodyear takes a new tire there, they go there and they do a confirmation test. And Casey Kane in the 9, they were one of the ones that did that test back in January. You know who the other car was? Jimmy Johnson in that 48 car, running 2nd and 3rd right now.
Another guy that I've been watching, and he's coming back, is Carl Edwards. Restarted in about 10th place, and he's back up to 4th. And he has the fastest car on the racetrack right now by about a 10th and a half.
Of the top 10 drivers entering this race in the Nextel Cup points, only one of them still has the same point position, Tony Stewart 6th. Here's how the top 5 came in. Busch, Johnson, Biffle. There's how things will change. There would be the new top 5, the way they're running right now. 9 of the top 10 positions would change given the positions the drivers are in right now.
And we've been talking about it. The fans may say, look, this is the only, you know, race 5. What's the big deal about that? But just remember, it's not a 36 race schedule. It's actually a 26 race schedule before they reset that chase for the Cup.
Some of those guys way down there, like Bobby Labonte and others, they are in trouble.
Greg Biffle and Jimmy Johnson both batting, looking to bat 600. Biffle looking for his 3rd win in the last 5 races. Johnson is going for his 6th win in the last 10. We listened in on Jimmy Johnson's team.
3120. Leaders running 3090. Jimmy 3rd and 4th are running 31 flat. You're doing everything you can, but we got to try to keep him in sight in case we have a green flag pit stop here at the end, so we can catch him.
Just giving that driver information, letting him know how he stacks up against the competition out front, which would be Greg Biffle, as well as Casey Kane and Carl Edwards. But right now, we're about 20 laps away from that possible green flag stop that you heard Chad Canals telling Jimmy Johnson about. Could be that final opportunity for 4 tires and that final adjustment.
Jeannie is in the pits of the Lowe's Chevy.
Yes, and the man in charge of the catch count for the 48. victory. Someone much more important needed him. Mike Knauer's mother, Catherine, very ill. She is still in intensive care in our nation's capital. Knauer is here this week, but as you can see, Mom is definitely on his mind and his health.
A good old-fashioned Ford Chevy shootout at the make that the Golden Corral here. Greg Biffle and Jimmy Johnson going at it back and forth. Biffle has led 146 laps. Jimmy Johnson 117, and a crowd estimated at over 100,000 here at Atlanta Motor Speedway on this first day of spring and Palm Sunday. And we already have some action on pit road. Joe Nemechek with a cylinder problem.
Means he must have possibly a broken valve spring or something. He's not running up to full speed. They're coming down to get 4 tires. This will be their last stop of the day. Maybe they're trying to short pit at the same time and trying to make the best of a bad situation, Chris. We take a look at our leader, Greg Biffle, is still basically pulling away from the rest of the field.
All right, tell me about hanging RPMs.
Well, we're talking about a sustained RPM. What that means is they're pulling some tape off the front of Joe Nemechek's car. It must be running a little bit warm. But what it is you go around this racetrack, you get at a certain RPM with a 8,000 RPM, and it just stays there for a consistent period of time, and it's really hard on a valve train. You carry that sustained speed all the way around this racetrack, and that's what we're talking about.
All right, so we have 48 laps to go.
We have a blown engine right down the back straightaway at 45, and a caution flag is out, and that'll be good for some guys and bad for others.
Kyle Petty with the problem, and just was going to ask what kind of strategy at this point, because they won't have to stop again.
No, this will be their final stop, but this is what happens at the end of this race. A lot of times you'll start seeing engine problems because of that sustained RPM.
It's worth pointing out that the leader of the most laps in this race has failed to win the last 3 times. And Jimmy Johnson, as we said, Greg Biffle leading the way. Let's rejoin Darrell, Larry, and Mike as Kyle Petty continues to have problems.
And it's that time.
Yes, it is. In that last 100 miles.
The last 100 miles of this race always gets a few of them.
Joe Nemechek was running 7th at the time. He'd had to overcome a penalty and move back up through. Kyle Petty was running back at about 30th position when that happened to him.
Just remember, Joe Nemechek runs Hendrick engines. He lost an engine at Fontana a couple of weeks ago when he was up there leading the race then. Now, Kyle Petty, we have Casey Kane running in the top 5. Remember, the Petty organization, they're running Evernham engines. So, a lot of organizations a little nervous right now.
There's Joe Nemechek going up in smoke, and here is Kyle Petty.
It's too bad because Kyle was only like 5 points out of 15th place in the points, and that's the highest a Petty car had been in the point standing since 1999 here with John Andretti at the wheel of the 43 car.
Sterling Marlin will receive the free pass. First car 1 lap down, so that will give us 16 cars on the lead lap.
Quite a bit of fluid. Quite a bit of fluid, I think, from the Petty car coming on the pit road. Looks like a big streak of oil coming down.
And that's a blow, Darrell, because Kyle came in here 16th in the points. He'd led laps in 3 races, and they were pretty solidly positioned in the standings.
Yeah, that's the oil we're talking about right there, and that's what NASCAR's taking a look at right now.
And that's the reason they've left pit road closed.
Bobby Hamilton Jr. back in the race after spending some time in the garage after slapping the wall in turn 2, but he's 78 laps down. There's the flag signaling that will go one more time before pit road is open.
But this is when you walk around as that crew chief, you pat all these guys on the back and say, look, I know you've been solid all day long. Some of the crews, we've had some mistakes, but this pit stop right here with about 40 to 45 laps to go, this could be the make or break stop. And you know what, that driver, we do not need any speeding on pit road coming in or leaving.
But you know something, Larry, you say that and you're exactly right. But one of the things I found is the more emphasis I put on how important this pit stop would be, the more times I'd have a problem. You just got to let your team, if they've been solid all day, you just got to let them go do their thing. Because if you call attention to the fact, hey, boys, this is the one that counts.
Maybe just to do your deal, you know what we need here.
Just do your job. Don't make any mistakes, but be careful.
Greg Biffle and Jimmy Johnson have led all but 12 laps today thus far. Next week, FX and Speed Channel coverage from Nashville Superspeedway. Busch Series qualifying, 11:30 a.m. Saturday, the ARCA REMAX Series, and the Busch Series race presented by Wind Fuel. One big day of racing on Easter Saturday weekend on Speed FX.
And you may think, well, it's an off weekend for Nextel Cup, so the Busch guys are kind of be on their own over there. Not true. Rumor had that a lot of Nextel Cup drivers will be there racing next Saturday.
Pit stops, Dick Berggren.